Are you ready? You put in the time, you got the gear. In fact, everything you carry is designed for a specific purpose to give you maximum advantage. Except your glasses. Introducing purpose-built optics, scientifically formulated and optimized for your specific pursuit. At Hook 'em Bullet, we believe sight casting for redfish is different from pitching a bait to a billfish, flipping to a bass on a bed, or live scoping for crappie. Each environment has unique visual cues and demands. You spend a lot of time and treasure feeding an undeniable passion. Don't take a Snoopy pole to a marlin fight. Make the most of every opportunity.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9-9 or out scoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Twisted Cat Outdoors podcast, where we give you information on tournaments, events, everything in the catfishing world, bringing you value, tips and tricks, things that you can do out there on the water. Let's get this show started.
I think this for the Twisted Cat Outdoors 3-fish record.
Hey everybody, welcome. Monday night, 7 o'clock, and we have been busy the last few weeks. We just finished up our third tournament in a row in St. Joe, Missouri. Had 60 teams, 7 teams over 100 pounds in their best 3. Big fish of the tournament was 78. So a great event in St. Joe. Now we're going to have a week off, and then our next event will be in Canton, Missouri for our annual Jack and Jill, August 31st. So registration is up for that. If you have questions, let us know. We're really excited about the Jack and Jill coming up. So yeah, let's see. Got some people jumping on. And tonight we're going to talk about batteries, and anything you got to want to know. Definitely ask your questions in the comments. I'll follow through. But without further ado, let's bring in our special guest, Pate Shumaker.
What's
How we
going on,
doing?
Mr. Alex?
Oh man, it's just another Monday night podcast.
Living the dream. I love it. That's good. Monday night podcast.
Yeah. So I guess let's kind of start by give me a little bit of background, how you got into this, kind of the history of Pro Guide, and let's start there.
Yeah, that's a great question. Kind of a mouthful too. So my family's been in the battery business since 1980. I'm technically the third generation. My grandfather started and quickly handed that off to my father in 1980, and started with one dude in a van out of a garage, kind of that classic entrepreneurial story, and just one customer at a time, one battery at a time. Built a distribution business and building a brand, and so I started selling batteries. My line is when I was 12. I had different jobs in the warehouse earlier than that, but started working retail at a young age, and I've just always been about batteries, and I've kind of slowly but surely turned into the battery nerd in the organization, and had a lot of good teaching and training from guys that have been in the industry for years. We just had an event, just had a sales training at our office, and we had we stopped counting. It was like nearly 150 years of battery experience in the room, just because we've got guys that have been with us 30 plus years, and so we're just battery people. And so yeah, I kind of got started just kind of that natural family business story, and yeah, just happy to be here and talk about some batteries and charging too.
And charging, yeah. So I remember when I got my first set of AGMs would have been like 2 boats ago. And that was really before the lithium craze. And then, over the last couple of years, lithium has just really started to take over for, more power, weight savings and all that. Even sometimes you want the weight back, and you guys now got that covered with the weighted battery trays. So
yeah, we do. Yeah, shout out to an idea that I thought was absolutely insane. So Matt Looney, he gets the credit on that one. So yeah, that was an idea that I legitimately was like, there's no way. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But believe it or not, we're moving quite a few of those little silly weighted trays. So kind of funny.
yeah, that is cool. So let's kind of dive into lithium and talk about, since now so many people, JT, battery issues suck. Since so many people get into it, I guess there are, when it comes to lithiums, there's pros, and are there some cons, or does it matter? You want to buy from a reputable company, obviously. Kind of talk about a little bit about that, because you have the Amazon stuff that people are buying, and then they're having issues if they got a charger that comes with it. I've been running your guys' 150s now for, this will either be my 3rd year or maybe 4th year.
Yeah, you jumped to the 100s when they first came out, if I remember, and you went 1 season with the 100s, and then we bumped you to the 150s. So yeah, I mean, what was funny is for you and for you guys' application, the 100s are basically overkill for bass and crappie guys on the trolling side. It's just an overkill. We really saw that your average guy only needs about 50 amp hours on a normal day of fishing. Your tournament guy is about 75 to maybe 80, but the 100 is overkill. But for you guys, going out there in current, up the current, bumping, and all those neat tactics, you guys can kill some batteries faster than anybody else. And it's you, and it's catfishing and bow fishing. Those are the two groups of fishermen that really use that trolling motor a lot. And so you've been in 150s for a couple years now.
Yeah, no, they've been running great. Like I said, before the 150s, what everybody did is had a generator on the front of their boat. And the second you start your trolling motor to charge those AGMs constantly, you're just running your generator all day long, which is annoying, and you have the smell and just the noise. So it's kind of weird now that I don't see a lot of the generators anymore on the boat. It's mainly at night or at the hotel and stuff. So
yeah. No, just that power, really was able to be taken, where as a set of 100s is about a 40% increase in overall capacity compared if you take a 100 amp hour lithium to 100 amp hour AGM. It's about a 50% increase in power. So when you jump to that 150, you're nearly seeing double the runtime. So guys that were running 2 full sets of AGMs in a day can now run on 1 set of 150s in that same time span, maybe even extend a little bit further, because they're not constantly turning that trolling motor up.
Yeah. And then you got to have a charger now too that charges lithium or AGM or lead acid, which I'm running that also. I guess, and for people who are watching my setup, I don't have a picture on my computer to share, but I've got 3 150s that I took out of my last boat and put in this boat. And then we ended up going 2 150s in parallel for the boat. And then I got 131 AGM that's just for the engine. So, and I remember when I told you that I was running, and Brent's on here too. I think when I had everything in the boat running, I was around 60 amps, which is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, a ton. It's basically running. I mean, that's essentially like running a trolling motor on full power. If you're traditionally your 50 to 60 amp power draw on them, when you were running all kinds of stuff on there, and probably streaming all kinds of.
Well, I mean, yeah, so with StreamYard, we're doing, or not StreamYard, but with Starlink, on the front of the boat.
Mhm.
That's the big dish that's drawing like 19 amps alone just when it's searching, and then about 9 amps when it's got it on a satellite,
Yep.
and then the camera gear, laptop, lights, all that stuff. It's just a lot of juice. But no, my system is, I always say, bulletproof. Like I said, I got 6 batteries, but everything works good. I always leave it charged and ready to rock and roll. And then Brent actually, with Hammerhead, finished a few installs for the live scope and stuff like that, which they do some great work. Which I think they sell your batteries. Are you right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Great.
Way over in Kentucky. That is a far ways from here in Lexington. I think Lexington. Is that right?
I'm pretty certain. Yeah. Don't hold me to that. I know it's Kentucky. Maybe we'll get
JT, I know you had some issues. I can't remember if you had an AGM go bad or something. Brent said Lexington. And Randy, I know you had some questions. So here's another thing that's came up a lot lately, and I know we maybe talked about it at ICAST a little bit. I've seen a lot of anglers now doing these 36-volt systems, and they're running 2, like they're doing the plug and play. What's your thoughts on going, instead of doing 3 150s for a catfish guy or whatever, and going to 2 36? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's just math, right? So I would say that for the catfishing application, I don't know that I wouldn't just continue with the 150s, the 3 150s in series, running a standard multi-bank charger, and running that route. The 36 volt is nice, and here's where I'll tell you it's nice. So say you're going from a customer that does have a need for 100 amp hours, and they're like, okay, I have an older boat, I only have 3 trays available in my boat, and I want to upgrade to that 36 volt trolling motor. Well, they can still run a single starting battery, and then run 2 36 volts in parallel in that. So you're saving that square footage in the boat. Or maybe you did have 3 trays, but you wanted some more storage for an extra prop, or more tackle, or life vests, or some other reason you wanted a little more storage. So we are seeing some consolidation from 312s to a single 12 if the application or if the customer's demand is low enough. We have a lot of recreational anglers that are going to a single 36 volt 50 from 3 standard lead acid or even AGM batteries, and they weren't ever utilizing the full potential. So we do see that a lot. But for you guys' application, I don't know. I definitely wouldn't put 3 36 in parallel together. We sometimes see where they'll put 2 together, and then they'll put 1 on like that plug and play, like you're talking about, like as a backup. But again, I'd probably still stick with the 12 volts. Like from a battery and a technical perspective, I still prefer 12 volts for a number of reasons, but customers are really picking the 36 volt more than anything. I think it's probably a mixture of what they're seeing more on the internet, honestly, and then just wanting to be a little different. So that's kind of pick your poison, whatever you prefer. But I traditionally, for your guys' application, I would definitely still stick with 312 volts and run that route.
Yeah, and a lot of guys are running the 150s and having great success with them. Caleb Bell asks, do they make a heated battery? Kind of talk about that. because there's always a lot of, especially in the beginning, there's a lot of talk about, well, if the battery gets below, it's dangerous to charge them, it could blow up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So kind of talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I'll answer the first question. Do we make a heated battery? Today, no, we do not. If that lays any clues to the future, there you go. We do have some stuff on the horizon. To answer kind of the deeper question as to why somebody would want a heated battery, so the concern is charging under 32 degrees. What we have seen, generally speaking, is that if it's an application where, for instance, say you're leaving to go out fishing and it's a pretty cold morning, right? Maybe it's in the shop and it's not below 32 degrees. Maybe you just took it off of the charger. And in that scenario where the batteries just came off the charger, coming out of a shop, going out into an application that it's cold outside, and you begin to use that product, you're not going to have any issues. You're not going to see any kind of degradation of power, any shortened runtime, because that internal temperature is still far above that 32 degree mark. The polar end of that, where you would see potentially, and when I say issues, I'll explain what I mean by issues, is say that boat sits outside for long periods of time and it is very cold. In that moment, if it's say below 32 degrees and you go to plug a charger in, the battery, because it is in such a state that it is so cold, it will not receive the charge amperage that it's trying to push at it. And it could have long-term effects on the cell if you did try to continually force charge that. What I would say is, in most of these conversations that we have with anglers, is that whenever we hear about their scenario, and anytime you have a question, I'll say this too before I finish, but anytime you have a question, you can go to ProGuideBatteries.com. There's a contact us. There's a 1-800 number. You can call and talk to any of the guys on our customer service team, guys or gals, just to be clear, and they will answer that question for you and say, hey, what is your situation? Is it inside, outside, pole barn, storage unit? What's that situation? We can talk through that. What we've seen is that if you notice on like the spec sheet for the 31M100, we say to reduce the charge amperage to less than 10 amps if below 32 degrees. If you are below 10 amps in that charge process and you begin to charge, that cell's going to heat up, and in the short period of time, that cell is going to reach above a 32 degree mark, and you're going to not have any kind of question of long-term damage or anything like that. That is why we feel pretty comfortable saying that. But I would say that there are certain applications and there are customers that today just want the peace of mind of that heating element inside of that battery. And really what that is, it is an internal heater that is connected to the battery management system. And below a certain threshold, that battery does not just turn on whenever it gets below 32 degrees and start to warm. That would pull that battery's state of charge down very quickly, right? And it would kind of defeat the purpose because it would kill the battery. That heater will only come on while in use or in charge. So what's going to happen is that battery begins to see amperage coming in or out. The heating element inside begins to warm up the cells, allowing the cells to accept the charge faster. So
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Hopefully
So
that answered your question, Caleb.
we do not have one today, but hint to the future.
And then Jesse, I think from earlier, said he's got 236 systems, so he's got a backup if something happens.
Yeah.
And then Greg said he's got 3 12s, and he can always switch his trolling motor to 24 volt. Now, I think if something does happen, you got to actually rewire the batteries to 24 volt, right? I don't think it's just a change. So you got to go back to 24 volt.
That's correct.
Wiring.
So that's a tale of two different setups, right? So Jesse's saying I have 236. I have a backup in case something happens. Absolutely, that's 100% accurate. if you have a straight 36 volt trolling motor, like a Ultrex that is not brushless, and it's either 24 or 36, you can do that. You could counter argue that and say, well, if I had an issue, I can find a 12 volt to put in place with two other 12 volts very easily anywhere. You're going to have a hard time finding a single 36 volt anywhere, like if you're in a tournament situation. Obviously, we don't plan on that ever happening to anybody, but we kind of just plan for the worst. And then Greg said, I have 12 volts in mine. If I ever have one go bad, I can drop down to 24 volt. That is correct as well. If you have a brushless trolling motor that allows multi-voltage, meaning I can run on 24 or 36, whatever the use case is. So both of those are accurate, but that's where kind of the battery sizing conversation does get a little bit vague whenever people are like, I just want to run all day. What do I need? And it's like, well, what do you do? What style? So it's a very broad.
And everybody's so different too on, how hard it's actually there's a guy, Randy, asked, is he underpowered with a 63 amp hour for bumping all day? And my answer is absolutely is underpowered. So yeah, Randy, you're going to definitely need to step up that a little bit, depending on where you're bumping. If you're bumping the Illinois River and it's nothing crazy, maybe, but for the most part, you're going to really probably drain your batteries almost to nothing. So yeah, I would say you're for sure definitely underpowered.
If I remember, Alex, you would go out and with the hundreds, it was about 2:30 or 3 o'clock that you could see you would hit that low voltage protection. Just to give a context, right? So for 100 amp hours, so you guys jump to the 150s and could fish all day.
Yeah, and some are fishing multiple days. So I mean, it's like it's just a habit that we always charge at night with the generator or at the hotel. But I know like the Massengales have gone, I think 2 or 3 days before. Dennis Mayo just jumped in. Sorry if this has been mentioned. Is there any harm in leaving the lithiums on the charger after they reached 100%? Say I plug them in during the event or evening and go to bed. So again, that's another question that everybody there's this question is I don't know what charger he has or what he's talking about, but the setup that I have, my boat is plugged in 24/7. The only time my boat is not plugged in charging is if I'm driving down the road or my boat's on the water. So it'll be always on the charger.
Yeah, and I can speak to our charger and its specific algorithm process for charging. So, Dennis, if you come home, plug it in, it gets fully charged, all the lights are green. That's what we're all looking for. Leave it hooked up. Just leave it hooked up. And here's what's going to happen with our charger. Every 24 hours, that charger is going to go through a power cycle, and it's going to reevaluate the state of health of that battery by looking at the voltage. And if it says, oh, I'm good, then it's going to just maintain. It's not going to do anything. It's going to keep green lights. Everything's going to look great. If that thing sits there for, lithium battery might lose 4 to 5% in a month's time. Okay. So at some point in that process, that battery is going to dip below the threshold that charger says is fully charged. And every 24 hours, it's checking and shutting off and checking and shutting off. And that's what we want it to do. We want that. We want the lithium battery. We want our AGM battery. We want our lead acid battery. Leave it plugged in. Now, back in the day, when it was maybe a single phase automatic charger, that charger would hit and basically go to green light and then shut off completely. And then it would not turn back on until you reconnected it to AC power, disconnected or reconnected, and restarted that charge process. So that kind of goes back to, I remember 10, 15 years ago, all of the tournament bass anglers would be like, oh, the trick is to let them charge all the way, disconnect them, and then reconnect it. And, basically you're just, you're tricking, you're not tricking anything. You're just making sure that battery gets fully topped off. But in the case of today's technology, especially with lithium, because it accepts that amperage so much faster, leave it plugged in.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers a lot of questions there. I know a lot of people always ask, is it, you always see of a boat burning down or something crazy happen, and they think that they left it charging or whatever. So, and then Randy, again, I don't know what your application is. I think you said you had a 36 volt, 63 amp hour. To me, I would say that that's way underpowered for bumping all day.
I would think you would want 2 of those for sure.
Yeah.
You need to double your capacity.
And Quentin's on Catfish Karma.
There he is.
So Quentin's actually the one that gave that reached out to me and told me about you guys, and yeah, weird because I had
me and my son. He took me and my son fishing when we were in Memphis there for a few weeks, and we had a great time. So shout out to Quentin. He's the man.
Yeah. Ed says, can you use different lithium batteries like a Pro Guide, Dakota? I don't know about that. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's all, and listen, that's what's funny is like, because we've been in business for 40 years and we're based out of Southwest Missouri, obviously a bass fishing kind of little mecca, right? We know a lot of people in the marine industry. And as we were a regional company, and we took care of a lot of these guys that that worked for the Minn Kotas and the Lowrance and that worked at Bass Pro and worked at all these places in the industry. So they'd go to these shows, and there might be one. You go to ICAST, and there might be one battery guy. There might be maybe 2 big nationwide brands. And the joke now is like, we go to ICAST or we go to IBEX, and all these other industry guys are like, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a lithium battery booth in this place. And it's true. They're everywhere. And the fact of the matter is, the reason they're everywhere is because our industry has always been, it is a heavy, hazardous, dirty product. And it takes a specific distribution model to serve those customers. What lithium changed is that while there's even more hazmat regulations to shipping, the value proposition to shipping, if I ship an AGM battery, it costs 20, 30, 40% at times the value of that transaction. Whereas a very expensive lithium battery, your freight's still high. So what happens is the economics work out, and now there's a bunch of guys that just start selling batteries as I mean, they just start selling batteries. They go find some, and it's kind of a side hustle, if you will, and that's kind of what it turns into. And some of them come and go, and some of them will stick around. But yeah, there's all kinds of other options out there, and
So I think, and he was also asking. I think he was also asking, like, if you had, I don't know why, Ed's asking, if you had 3 different lithium batteries.
Yeah, you can. I wouldn't, where we don't mix traditionally with batteries is that what we see a lot of bad information out there where it's like, oh, I've got an AGM and a lithium parallel together. Well, one of those is always going to be discharged, and one of those is always going to be overcharged, and you're going to have a bad experience. And when I mean by bad experience, it may last a year, it may last 2 years, but it's not going to last as long as it should. When it comes to mixing lithium brands, you're going to potentially run into making sure you have the same chemistry, which all of our product is lithium iron phosphate, LiFePO4, LiFePO4 is what you see. Where you will get into some issues is if you begin to mix amp hours. So say I take a 100 amp hour Pro Guide and a 54 amp hour Dakota or whatever, and you begin to interchange those amperages, you're going to have different levels of power draw, and you're going to become out of balance pretty fast. So that can definitely lead to issues.
And then I guess while we're kind of on that other battery subject, kind of go over the BMS. What is BMS? Explain the BMS.
Yeah. So a BMS is a battery management system. So basically, it's the brain of the battery, and that is a very important part of whatever lithium battery. You need one that not only is safe. So each of our batteries are going to pass multiple certifications, but safety is obviously number one thing. Number two, you're going to want one that is robust, strong. For that 31M100 behind your shoulder there, one of the key things that I put into that BMS was the fact that it has a 400 amp pulse, meaning it is a deep cycle battery. It is not a starting battery, not that individual unit. So it has a deep cycle cell and it has a deep cycle battery management system, but it has a 400 amp pulse discharge. So why that is important is that when lithium was really getting started, you'd hear customers try to jump start their starting battery off of one of their trolling motor batteries. Their starting battery's dead, and they try to jump off a trolling motor battery. Well, guess what? They jumped off that 100 amp BMS, and they over amped the BMS, and now your trolling motor's dead. So now you got a dead motor and a dead trolling motor, and you got some trouble. That was that was probably the second technical lithium call I ever took in 2015. We'd sold a customer a brand new set of Relions. He paid a whole lot of money, and we were all learning together. And he was in the middle of Lake of the Ozarks, and that happened. And it was a Saturday, and he was not having a very good day. And we all learned something that day. That's why that product has what it has in there from a from a BMS perspective. So safety and the ability to perform some of the things that everybody assumes a battery can't do is important.
Yeah, so Justin Arthur asked, is it better to charge your lithium batteries all the time or get them fully charged and take off the charger? Which also, the other question from Kyle, is it recommended to leave your AGM batteries on the charger when not in use? So correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that as long as you've got the quality products that are supposed to work like they can, like I tell people, my boat is plugged in 24/7 unless I'm driving down the road or I'm on the water, my boat's plugged in.
Yeah, so Dennis asked about a Minn Kota 460 PCL. I would leave that plugged in. Asked about a NOCO. I would leave that plugged in. You can leave our charger plugged in. It's got that 24-hour check on the algorithm. So, yeah, absolutely. Leave it plugged in.
And then Wallace Meyer, which he's actually guiding down in St. Louis. He said a local contact for lithium support is key. And that's another thing that we talk about is, Nick's the man for that. And it's so important if you have an issue, you can talk to somebody.
That's right.
And like what you guys have done just in our tournament series, somebody had a weird issue. I mean, they can call and you guys can kind of dial it in and say, hey, this is what's going on. Yep. Or, you got stores. So how many stores do you have?
We have 11. We have
11 stores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, customer service is, again, is kind of, it's not kind of, it is who we are. It's what we've built on. And, there's a lot of places, as you can tell in your chat, there's a lot of places to buy a battery. And nobody wakes up looking forward to buying a battery. We know that. Dealers know that. So that experience that they have when they buy a battery is critical. And for them to know that they have support in the back end, not just, hey, can I call today? But, we've been around for 44 years and we're not going anywhere. Lithium is a tiny percentage of who we are. So our customer service goes far beyond this one product chain, and it's critical to, our future success, we believe. So yeah, I mean, Nick gets thrown out a lot. He is the man. Whenever we launched this program, I pulled him. He was a really good retail guy, and he was kind of my go-to. And I said, how would you feel about being the Pro Guide Lithium technical support person? And boy, that sounded really nice to Nick. He was like, heck yeah, that sounds awesome. And I was like, here's your cell phone. You're never going to not answer it. Yeah, so he takes a lot of calls, and it's amazing why I value this so much is we go to these shows in Florida, in Kentucky, in Texas, and, Ohio, Vicksburg, Mississippi. And it's like people walk up and they mention Nick. And it's like, they don't talk about the battery. They don't talk about the charger. They talk about Nick. And it's like, that's why, how I feel and know that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. The batteries are supposed to work, right? So he's the man.
Yeah, no, Nick is awesome. Another question, Andy Needham said, if your lithium gets low, which this is like, I know this is definitely a no-no because I'm not sure, I'm sure you're going to say that, but I'm talking almost 4 years ago, almost every single boat had a generator strapped to the front and running all day long, charging, and you could cook a steak on your charger. I mean, that thing was almost smoking. So if your lithium gets low, can you use a generator to charge on the water while in use, like we did with the AGMs?
So here's what I'm going to tell you, and here's what every charger manufacturer is going to tell you. The answer to that is no. Now, I know there's probably going to be people listening that have done it. I've done it because I wanted to see what would happen. I've had part of me figuring out this entire thing was we used to bow fish a lot, and I had a lot of buddies, running generators into a charger into batteries all night long, and you can definitely you're either going to, it's really the hardest on the charger. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the hardest on the charger, and what I would recommend, if that is the setup that you prefer, that, and I'm not sure if it's something that I'm sure it is, but you need to look at a DC to DC converter. Power Max is one that's very popular. They're built for DC to DC charging for RVs, and that the bow fishing world kind of really adopted these things really early on, and they make a bow fishing model now, so much that they actually have a reduced voltage model, so that whenever it's charging, it's not charging, it's more of a constant state charge as opposed to a boost or absorption charge in the algorithm, which means in that absorption and boost mode, it's like pushing 14 on an AGM, it's like pushing 14.5, 14.6, 15 volts, which is what lithium likes. But on an AGM, it really wants to be charged at about like 13.6, 13.7, like for constant use. So those DC to DC converters is something, if you did want to run a generator or have a backup plan like that, that is something that you could look at. And that is built to, what's funny is when it's properly set up, you can be on the front of your boat with a trolling motor, and your generator in the back is running like on quiet mode, right? Because it's not pulling very much. But you hit that throttle, if you got a tiller handle or a foot pedal, that generator will kick up, and you'll hear it, and it's like this weird through the chain voltage draw, and that generator kicks on because that DC to DC converter senses the amperage draw and begins to push more energy into the battery. So
nice. Well, hopefully that answers your question, Andy, but I don't know what batteries you're using right now, but he's always bumping the heavy stuff too. Let's see. So Kyle, we answered your question.
Nick that asked a question. I run a 15 amp charger on my 312s. Usually takes about 10 hours to charge. Some guys have higher amp chargers and can fully charge their lithiums in such a short period of time. Is there lifespan damage done? That's a great question. Traditionally, so the neat thing about a lithium is that it can charge at what they call 1C, which means the equivalent of the current rated amp hour. So if it's a 100 amp hour battery, 1C means it can be charged at 100 amps. Charging a 100 amp battery at 1C will degrade the cell faster. What traditionally, like the 31-100 and the 150, we say that we really don't like to charge over 0.5, which would be 50 or 75. And the sweet spot is really 0.1 to 0.25, meaning 10 to 25 amps on your charger. So what I would say is almost every aftermarket charger today is going to be within the safe window of charge acceptance. So if you can get that 15 amp charger, if you can find a 20 amp charger, go for it. I wouldn't jump more than half C or half of the stated capacity. But yeah, I mean, we literally just came out with a new model of that's really more dedicated for the live scope guys that are running. We have guys on the other side where they might have 3-4 black boxes, maybe 4 12-inch screens, and maybe an MBT 16 or 22, I think. And they're pulling an amperage that, like you're pulling, Alex. So we came out with the 1236X, which is still a 2-bank charger. Bank 1 is 12, bank 2 is 36. But bank 1, instead of a 12-volt 10 amp, is a 12-volt 20 amp. So that if you do have that 200 amp hour, 2 starting batteries in parallel, you can recharge faster.
Okay, and here's another question I had also. So let's talk about parallel banks real quick, and then we'll get to Mark's question.
Mm-hmm.
So parallel bank, everybody always asks, how. So I have 2 150s in parallel. Mm-hmm. So just explain to them what parallel is, how you charge parallel, and why parallel is important, I guess, if you need it.
Yeah. So parallel is positive to positive, negative to negative. Okay. So really what you're doing when you put a battery in parallel, your voltage stays the same and your amp hours double, or you add the two together. So if you have a 100 amp hour battery, 12 and 12 stays 12, but it's now a 12 volt 200 amp hour. And series is positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. And when you charge in parallel, and you got 2 leads running to 2 different batteries, your parallel connections again are positive, positive, negative, negative. You put your positive on battery 1 and your negative on battery 2, and that way those batteries will stay in balance. So yeah, it's very common. Parallel keeps your voltage the same. Series stacks your voltage, but your amp hours stay the same. So for instance, the 12 volt, the 31-100 that's over your shoulder that I keep referencing, 3 of those in series is a 36 volt 100 amp hour. And if you took a 3650, you'd put 2 of those in parallel and you'd have 36 volt 50 amp hour, or 100 amp hour, excuse me.
Yeah. And like I said, I've been running the 8-year ProGuide AGMs for 3 boats. And I remember when a walleye guys who taught me in Seth McAllister, they were saying, hey, we're running everything in parallel as you're getting more units on the boat and stereos, this is quite a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I've always had a parallel bank just running everything because it's just so much more power, especially if you have stereos. And a lot of these guys are now at 3 sonars, 4 sonars, a live scope. A lot of them are night fishing, so big lights on their boat too. So, yeah.
We recently had a customer install. He had 5 forward-facing sonars and 6 graphs. This isn't a bass boat. He had 2 150s and 100 ST just for his house power. Pretty crazy world out there. So we got a question about Mark Combs. So Mark, great question. If you did have a battery go into low voltage protection, which is what you've experienced there, and then it said reverse polarity, I can assure you, I know you hook that voltmeter to it and it shows negative the other way. What that is that is a residual voltage through the BMS. It is not, it cannot, and I cannot state this clearly enough, it cannot actually be reverse polarity. I know that's what the voltmeter said. I know that's what it said because I've seen it. But what that is a residual voltage. That battery is in low voltage protection, and those cells have been disconnected. The FETs have opened, and that BMS just has voltage in the capacitors and the FETs. And what you're going to see is that you're going to see some crazy numbers, okay? But you can't trust that. And that's a part of the customer service and dealing with specific issues. Crazy things happen, but reverse polarity on a lithium battery is not going to. Literally, the board would fry, and all those. There's usually about 20 MOSFETs, which are little semiconductors that sit on the BMS, and each one of those would have to go, and we would have bigger problems. And I'm going to tell you that cannot and will not happen. So, because old school lead acid or AGM, you could kill one, you'd bring it all the way dead, and it would have to sit for a long, long time. I'm talking months, maybe over a year, below or at a crazy low discharge, less than, let's say, 5 volts. And I've seen it three times where that battery will reverse polarity. Will switch polarities because the charger wouldn't pick it up, and it'll charge backwards. It's extremely rare, but that's only on lead acid and AGM. It will not happen on lithium.
And then I got a question on the chargers again. When batteries go, if let's say that you didn't plug your boat in and it was all winter, and you go back to try to plug your boat in and charge it, and maybe you got power poles and it sucked the juice down, will all chargers, you got to actually put take your batteries out and charge them because they won't even recognize them to charge, or how's that work?
It depends. It just depends. So that's why having customer service is critical. So I would say that if you get to a state where it's like these batteries will not take a charge, disconnect them from the series or the parallel, removing all load, and then you can either A, hook a booster pack to it. That's one trick. B, if you have a charger that you can force into a manual mode, that is where you are basically hooking the clamps to it, and you're saying, I'm connected to a battery and the charger, and not a lot of chargers do this today. But basically, it's like I'm forcing this battery to wake up. Our Pro Guide charger line has that activate button. You hold that button for 3 to 5 seconds. It sends voltage to the terminals, and that BMS then releases the lockout and then begins to charge. That BMS, the battery's not dead, not 100% dead. It is 90% dead. And that BMS is protecting it, because if a lithium battery does go to true 0% state of charge, that cell will not come back. And that cell is no longer good. So that BMS stops that battery from going to that state where it will not return.
Okay. And my next question is on parallel. So if I've got 3 trolling motor batteries and 2 in parallel, and I got a 5 bank charger, can I use both leads on each parallel battery, or do I just put one? I'm charging that as one battery.
Yeah, no, you cannot use 2 banks. So if you have 2 batteries in parallel, you cannot put bank 1 and bank 2 or any configuration, right? If they are in parallel, it can only run on one bank. It can only charge on one bank, because what's going to happen is you're going to have a situation where bank 1 is tricking bank 2, and bank 2 is tricking bank 1, because they're both trying to determine where is the state of charge of this battery. And if one's kicking voltage up in an algorithm, the second bank is going to get messed up. So that is a question we get asked a lot. Hey, can I stack these and get 20 amps? Or can I? And the answer is no. So.
Okay. David Shipman said, I've heard that Suzuki motors won't start with lithium batteries. Can you answer? I haven't tried it. So I know that they do because I got a ProCat 200 that I'm running 3 150s for the trolling motor, and I'm running the 100 start, and starts it every time.
Yeah. So yeah, it absolutely can. We have product in the hands of the Suzuki testing facility in Florida, and what Suzuki is working through is, will their charge system properly charge lithium batteries? They have some. They have some. They have certain models that don't have a standard electrical charge output system. I believe the 300. Again, I don't know. At this point, we do meet all stated mercury starting requirements. Suzuki has not released any starting battery requirements or qualifications, and I really think it comes down to their electrical system. So, to answer your question, will it start it? Yes. Will you have a great performance and experience? From our perspective, we believe so. But Suzuki has yet to release any kind of statement one way or the other. But their stator charge system is not designed to charge lithiums. Where it comes into an issue, so to speak, is that stator's voltage could spike higher than what the BMS will allow, meaning the battery could shut off. But we've not seen that as an overall issue, because it's like anytime that we're selling a starting battery, we're asking the question: is this going in a Mercury, with a 4-stroke or with an alternating charging system? And if the answer is no, then we say, now please understand there's certain older model motors where it's like, do not use this battery, and go with an AGM to start the battery, or to start the boat, and use lithium for a different lithium battery for your house accessories.
Yeah, and I think again it's new technology, so it's going to take a while for everybody to kind of get on the same page.
Yamaha is the same story.
Well, yeah, so it definitely starts the Suzuki 200 just fine, and I've not had any issues with it. But that's a good question. And then Donald said he's been charging his house batteries wrong this whole time. That'll probably also hurt him too, if by doubling that up, if you're putting leads on both. I mean, it can.
It can. Probably not, honestly. It probably just isn't allowing them to get a full charge. Or they may get a full charge, but it might take longer. It will take longer than it should, for sure. Definitely. It's competing. It's competing charge cycles is really what it is.
Yeah. So Wally's asking about some what's new in the future. I'll let you say it because I was at ICAST and I got to put my hands on a few things. So
yeah. So we've got some new. We launched 2 chargers at ICAST. Another one that's on the way. We've released our first 16-volt model. Again, that is for electronics use only, forward-facing sonars, and applicable screen and graph models. I will say there was another question about capacity. Is 150 all that there is? In the future, there's going to be some stuff that there's some stuff on the horizon sooner than later, before next season. That's what I'll say. Before next season starts. So keep your eyes open. We got some stuff cooking. I'm excited about it. This is this honestly, it's kind of the fun stuff for me, because it's like I hear these kind of crazy use cases, and when you start off, you're like, oh, that's way too much. And when I started the current project that I'm on, I was looking for a certain capacity with a 36-volt single battery, and then it's in the same case. There's a 24, there's a 36, there's a 48. And it's like, wow, on what planet would I need that much in a 12-volt? And in the last 6 months, there's been 2 or 3 specific conversations and use cases that came out for that. And so yeah, there's some stuff coming, but man, the 150s have been just rock stars. And for this application, it really does feel like it does feel like the right fit for catfishing for sure. So
so Justin Arthur's kind of going back to, he's asking if I'm correct that 3 12-volt 135 amp hour batteries is not as good as one 36-volt 200 amp battery, which that's not, is there even a such thing as a 36-volt 200 amp?
okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, one 36-volt 200 amp battery is stronger than 3 12-volt 135 amp batteries to make a 36-volt system. No, that's right. So one 36-200 would be more capacity, right, than 3 12 volts in series. So you have a 36-volt 200 versus a 36-volt 135. So no, that's I'm trying to understand. Yeah, so I mean, 36-volt 200 amp battery is stronger than 3 12-volt 135s for sure.
Is there such a thing out?
A 36-200, that's huge.
That'd be giant.
Yes, I mean, like, we have a 12-volt 300, and it is an 8D. So that would be 3 8Ds, 48. Yeah, 36-volt 200, man. That's essentially, no, I mean, hey, I've seen crazier things out there, but I'd love to see it. Yeah, in some like huge off-grid, like, so we sell into a totally different market, a 48. It's a 5.1 kilowatt hour system, which is a 48-volt 105 that weighs 120 pounds and is the size of a suitcase. I mean, it's twice as big as an 8D. And an 8D is like that size of battery that you'd see in like a bulldozer, right? Or like a tugboat. Yeah. It's an 8D is 3 Group 24s side to side to side. That is what and about an inch longer. That is what an 8D is. So they're huge. That would be huge in a boat. Doable, but it's huge.
Yeah. So Justin, so when I purchased mine, they said the 3 batteries would be stronger. So I was just using the 200 amp as a reference.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good question. I guess what he's asking everybody that's following is he's saying if I have 3 100 amp batteries, let's say I got 3 100 amp lithium batteries, or I have a 36-volt 100 amp hour battery for one battery, that's technically the same power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yes, I would agree with that statement.
And but that's going to be a big battery, though, the 100 amp hour 36-volt.
Yeah. So from an industry perspective, a 36-volt 100 amp hour, Dakota has a 36-volt 100 amp hour that's 96 amp hours, and it's in that same 8D case. So for reference.
Okay. So hopefully that answers your question, Justin. David Shipman says, you got a lithium battery for my electronics only. Can I parallel that with a regular battery that's my starting battery now?
If it is a lead acid or an AGM battery for long-term use, no. If you are in a situation where you need to jump off of that lithium battery, that's fine. Or you need to get through the rest of a tournament or something like that, that's fine. But that is not a long-term use situation. Basically, what's going to happen is if you're using a lithium charger, it's going to overcharge your AGM. If you're using a lead acid charger, it's going to undercharge your lithium. So you're not going to meet optimal performance from either side.
A lot of good questions tonight.
Great questions. So are you seeing supplier pricing come down similar to EV batteries? It's a great question. A little bit. If you followed the history of the 31M100, we have reduced that price and increased that warranty. It's now a 10-year warranty, and we reduced the retail price by $100 since we have launched. The 31 and 150 was $12.99 and is now $9.99. So there are some prices that are coming down. Obviously, not to get into politics, but tariffs play into a big piece of this from every perspective. So that you might see prices get drove back up, unfortunately. But right now, the benefit is that we're seeing is the more production, the lower cost of cells. So yes, it should fall some, but it's not going to be catastrophic, fall offs. If you see a battery that is significantly cheaper, I guess I would ask the consumer to do all the research, look at the warranty, look at the customer service, look at everything else beyond just the upfront price. And those things are out there. There's no question. We're not hiding from it. But there's a lot of work that goes into the battery that you see there on the shelf, far beyond just that is a purpose-built product. That is built for a marine application, for the shock, for the vibration, for the ease of install, for everything about that process.
Yeah, I haven't used, you guys at the store sell the gel bottoms for underneath your battery.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got that underneath all my batteries too.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. So
Brent said, is the amp hour draw different when using a 36 volt battery over 312 volt?
Nope. You might see a little bit of efficiency loss in the 312 volts if your cables are in different lengths, or you have like bad crimps or something like that, but nothing that's going to be truly noticeable from your perspective.
Okay. Scott Rupert said, I fish walleye after the freeze. Will the lithium batteries have any charging problems when it's cold?
So going back to that earlier, and you may not have been here. So as long as that battery is so if you take that battery out, you fully charged it after a trip, right? You plug it in and you put that thing to work, you go launch the boat, it's freezing out. You're putting that battery to work quickly, or, that battery's out in the elements and it's working, it's going to be totally fine. If that boat is parked for long periods of time outside, exposed to the elements, and that cell is below 32 degrees and you begin to charge, that is where I would just ask that, every application is different, that, go speak, call 1-800 our 1-800 number, hit us up with the contact us message or the chat, and talk about, hey, where does this boat live? What is the charging situation? What are we working with? And we can answer that very specifically for your application.
Okay. And another quick question, warranty. Explain your warranty. And I know compared to others, you guys have a true warranty where, you might buy this Amazon battery today and they're out of business in 2 years, but they claim they have a 10-year, 5-year, whatever warranty.
Yeah. So we do have a 10-year total warranty. It is a 5-year free replacement. It is 40% off of list for the remaining 5 years. And I would say to that, there is a warranty war. And the other piece of this, it is a transferable warranty. If you register that battery at ProGuideBatteries.com, that warranty can actually transfer. Just re-register it up to 2 times. And say you get a new boat every year and you go to sell the boat, that warranty can transfer, which is we are the only one right now that offers that. And I would just say go read some warranty statements, and you can read our warranty statement. Just answer that question for yourself. There are some crazy warranty requirements out there, and how I answer that question is, and a lot of times it's like, you can put a crazy warranty on anything if you don't have a front door. But as you stated earlier, Alex, I have 11, and you can walk into 11 of our stores and you're going to be taken care of, and you're going to expect to be taken care of because, you can come see us, right? And we're going to take care of the customer. But if, I could put something crazy on there. If I was just drop shipping, using a third-party logistics company and, just answering emails. So, we're in it for the long haul. We know that there's all sorts of competition out there. We're not afraid of that, and we welcome it, honestly. So we'd love every opportunity to answer any like more specific direct questions a lot of guys have thrown out. This guy, you can call Nick. You can hit us up on the ProGuide.com and contact us for him, and we can go through any of those specific questions.
Yeah, like I said, so I've been in 5 of your stores, and they're awesome because they got a lot of cool little. I think I bought a flashlight there now. My bait knife is from the store. So Cottleville is my store, which is outside of St. Louis. Nice, really nice area. And like I said, they have always taken good care. So like I said, that's what's nice is you can walk into the store, talk to somebody. And if you have an issue, you can always go there. So, that is nice having a store. And like I said, the warranty is important. I know a few years ago, a company came out, Lithium, and I know 5 guys that personally got burnt because that company's not in business anymore. So now they have a battery that doesn't work and no replacement.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. There's quite a few. So, it's and the other thing that I would say, guys, is that we really believe in that dealer experience as well. Just like we're talking about coming to our stores, like, our dealer network is huge. You have Hammerhead Sonar here in the comments today, and it's like, I want that in-field representative that's going to take care of you and be able to solve that problem even faster. So that's a huge piece for us. That's what we've chased from the beginning. And I think it's like a critical piece of taking care of the customer in the long run is having product service options out in the field.
Awesome. Well, I know you got to run, man. You answered a ton of questions. Brent's going to ask you one more question. Will the Bluetooth function make its way down the battery lineup?
It's a good question. Stay tuned. Yeah, so we got some. Oh, there's Joey McCracken.
Joey,
one of our guys. So he just threw his email and phone number in the chat. So hit us up. And if you hear a strange noise, my 10-year-old just climbed in the truck from football practice. So.
No, that's fine. Hey man, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate the support with Twisted Cat these last couple of years, and it means a lot. And I just wanted to kind of have you on. There's so many questions, especially with the lithium coming to the catfishing world, charging questions and all that. So hopefully this is kind of like that first start to kind of answer some of these questions, and we'll kind of continue. We'll do a follow-up sometime.
Absolutely. Would love to. And I would say this, if you have some questions or some guys that like, hey, I didn't get my question answered, like throw them in the chat, whatever, throw them on a document and send it to Nick and I and Joey, and we will answer each one of those. And then you can distribute that out, on your page. That way we can answer any of those specific questions. And of course, just hit us up, the 1-800 number and ProGuideBatteries.com or any ProGuide dealer, and they'll answer the question, or they'll call Nick or I or Joey.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Pate, I appreciate you so much again for the support. Have a good rest of your evening, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, we'll see you. Bye.
All right, see you. Okay, so big thanks to Pate with Pro Guide Batteries. Again, they have been sponsoring Twisted Cat now for 3 years. So, again, we always like to get these companies on here that support us and show why they support us and why we support them. And like I said, Pro Guide Batteries, been in the game for a lot of years. They're not going anywhere. They got 11 stores that you can go to. They got great customer service. And then we just had to be able to talk to the owner right there. So how cool is that? So if you have any other questions about batteries that we didn't get to tonight, you can ask in this chat. And then somebody will get it answered. I know Brent will probably be on here sometime too. I need to get Brent, if you're still on here, I got to get you on the show because you're the electronics guru. And that would be a pretty fun show too, talking about electronics, the trends, the new things, some of the stuff that you have going on. I took my Dynasty to Brent, in February to have him follow up on a few things I just hadn't had a chance to finish, and he did some awesome work if you had a chance to see my boat. So we'll have to have Hammerhead Sonar on here for the show one time. So maybe in the next few weeks we'll get Brent and the crew on. And everybody, thanks for watching. Points after St. Joe should be updated by tomorrow. Again, this weekend was another great weekend. Hope to see you all at the Jack and Jill in Canton, Missouri, August 31st. And then make sure after that is Alton Catfish Classic. We are up to 60 teams right now for the September 7th tournament. And then Burlington, Iowa, September 21st. New Madrid, Missouri, October 5th. Savannah, Tennessee, October 12th. And then October 19th, I guess we're going to do 3 in a row there too. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Keystone Lake. And then 2 weeks later, we're going to wrap it up in Helena, Arkansas for the championship. And already starting to work on next year's schedule. So got a few dates that are almost wrapped up. So we'll get those posted so we can really get things going. I need a cool backdrop like yours. This is just my office. I mean, it's kind of I've got the rods and stuff over there, and mostly just nothing crazy, Brent. You just do it in your shop there. That's your backdrop. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Dennis. Again, if you have questions on batteries, ask them on here. Give Joey a call or text. Like I said, Pro Guide Batteries, huge sponsor of Twisted Cat Outdoors. And we will see you in Burlington for sure, Scott. Yep. But I think that is really all we got tonight. And again, hope to see you at Jack and Jill, August 31st, Canton, Missouri. Everybody have a good night, and thanks for watching.